Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 195 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as always by the elusive Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. Yourself?
Very good, my friend, very good. Right, let's start with the review part. We're going to start here at the Baluan Sholak Sports Palace in Kazakhstan, actually. Topping the bill, just really one fight to mention. Kana Islam, a guy that I believe he's about 33, 34 years of age. He's just kind of been, what seems like forever, been hanging around the kind of fringe world level scene. He's 25-0, well he's now actually 26-0. It was for the vacant WBO Intercontinental Super Welterweight title against Julio De Jesus, who was actually 27-1 going in, but it was a real padded 27 wins, and he got knocked out in the first round, so a big win there for Kana Islam, 26-0 like I say. Moving out now to the Bantamweights Hotel in Lancashire, United Kingdom. Really one fight to mention over here. This bill went some serious rounds. There wasn't even a single knockout on the whole card. Every single fight went the distance, but thankfully for the people in attendance, the longest fight was only a 6-rounder anyway. There was 2 6-rounders on the bill. One of those, like I say, Hosea Burton, a 6-round points win. He's now 24-1. It was against Edgars Sniedzi, who's now 6-27. Moving out now to the Ponds Forge Arena in Sheffield, Yorkshire, United Kingdom. 1 or 2 fights to mention. We are scraping a little bit here. Tyrone Nurse picked up a win. It's good to see him back with a W. It's been a few losses back-to-back, if I'm not mistaken. He's now 36-6 with 2 draws. It was a points win over 6 against Oscar Amador, now 10-20. Moving out now to Germany at the CU Arena. 2 fights to mention over here, really. Igor Mikulkin, former Kovalev opponent, now 23-2. It was a win over 12 rounds unanimously against Timur Nikarkoev, who is now 21-2. It was 21-3, I should say. It was for the interim IBO World Light Heavyweight title. Mikulkin picks up a win. I expected that to happen. 23-2 now inside of 25 fights. But topping the bill, Sebastian Formella, now 21-0. He put his O on the line against South Africa's Fulani Mbenge, now 15-1. It was for the IBO World Welterweight title. Again, I said it on last week's show, Mbenge, in my opinion, was a guy that had a lot of potential. Certainly a big name in South Africa. There's not too many of those, obviously. And I was quite shocked, actually, to see him lose to Formella, who is not a young guy. I think he's in his 30s, Formella. So could perhaps be a name to look out for there, but like I say, the welterweight division is completely stacked there. 21-0 Formella, maybe one to look out for. Moving out now to the Barry's Arena in Kazakhstan. 2 venues popping off with action in Kazakhstan this past weekend. We're just going to mention the main event here. Nordin Ubali, a successful defence of his WBC World Bantamweight title. He actually made his opponent Arthur Villanueva retire on his store after 6 rounds. Villanueva now 32-4 with 1 draw. He was actually down once in that 6th round and he didn't want to come out for round 7. Nordin Ubali 16-0, a good fighter there at bantamweight. There's some big fights for him. Moving out now to Poland at the Stadion Miejski. 1 or 2 fights, just the one actually to mention here. Heavyweight prospect Lukas Rozanski. Like I said on last week's show, he'd been sparring Michael Hunter. He's now 11-0. It was for the vacant Republic of Poland heavyweight title against fellow Polishman Izwagbi Ugano, the guy that went life and death with Dominic Breazeale. He ended up getting stopped, but he had Dominic Breazeale down in that fight and really down and hurt. It was a brilliant fight, real fun fight while it lasted. And Ugano actually got knocked out here in 4 rounds, and that's a big statement there for Rozanski. I had him as the underdog going in, but what do I know? Ugano now 18-2, and it was a bit fortunate really for Rozanski, because when Ugano was kind of punched down to his knee, and his knee was on the canvas, and then Rozanski threw a shot, and then when he hit him with his shot, it completely folded him on the floor. So it was a completely illegal shot, but I don't know if the referee kind of thought Ugano was looking for a way out, and he laid down, and I think if we're being completely honest, he probably should have had Rozanski disqualified, but that didn't happen. So like I say, very fortunate there, but I think he outclassed Ugano really over the previous rounds anyway. Moving out now to York Hall in Bethnal Green, London, United Kingdom. A couple of prospects got wins. Yusuf Kamari now 9-0. Umar Sadiq now 6-1. Both those guys with 6-round points wins. But the shock really over here, a guy called Tony Banj, he was 7-0. He was the guy that Prince Nassim Hamed, I believe, was either managing or promoting a couple of years back. I'm not quite sure if they still have any kind of connection, but anyway, he was raving about Tony Banj, saying he was a brilliant fighter, one to look out for, but he actually lost his O here to, I'm going to struggle here, Edvinas Puplauskas, who's now... That was his 6th win. He's got 25 losses, so a real big upset there. That was a points win over 4 rounds, and you know how it is when a home fighter's in a 4-round fight. If the referee wants to do you a bit of a favour, all you've really got to do is win 2 rounds. If you win 1 round, they'll probably throw you a bone and give you a draw and say, yeah, it was probably 2-2 over 4 rounds, but you must have lost quite clearly for the referee to have no choice but to give it to Poplauskas. But that is about everything actually for the review part of the show. We've whizzed through that pretty quickly. That is everything. So just before we wrap up part 1, the last thing to do as always is to welcome our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBC Lightweight World Champion, the undefeated Mr. Omar Figueroa. Omar, welcome back on the show, sir.
Good to be back. Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure having you back, Omar. We last spoke in February. It was just before the John Molina Jr. fight. Coincidentally, we actually had John on last week's show. I think it's fair to say that we didn't really see the prettiest boxing skills that night. It was really more of a slugfest, and boy oh boy did you show an incredible chin, Omar. In a nutshell, just talk us through that fight from your point of view. A real good fight.
Well, to me, it was an easy fight. I mean, the second round, I think it was, second round, I felt that my right hand was bothering me already, and from past experiences, I decided to just cruise the rest of the fight, because then I start overcompensating with the left hand, and I end up hurting both hands, and then I'm out for 7 months, and it's like I've already been out too long. I wasn't going to risk anything, so I just decided to cruise for the easy unanimous decision.
And your next fight will be taking place next weekend on the undercard of Pacquiao vs Thurman at the MGM Grand. You'll be taking on Yordenis Ugas. Now, out of all the boxers I've interviewed over the years, you're probably the one that watches boxing the least. Have you seen much of Ugas though, Omar, and what do you know about him?
I haven't. I've maybe watched a couple of rounds from his fight against Porter. Yeah, but aside from that, I mean, I don't like to go into a fight having this preconceived notion of what the boxer is going to be like, because I have a completely different style from any of the boxers that he could have faced. Well, and then I was thinking about it. I was like, well, Porter kind of likes to rough it out too, but in that fight, Porter decided to box for some reason. And so, I mean, but I saw the tendencies that Ugas has, and I see what he likes to do. And honestly, I feel like if he does fight that way, then it suits me best.
I do want to ask you, Omar. I mean, you say there a lot of these fighters don't fight like you do. Obviously, Sean Porter's got an aggressive style, just like you have. You've got an aggressive style. Have you ever kind of seen a boxer from history or from the past few years that boxes similar to you? Who would you say you've got a style that is similar with?
None that I can really compare myself to. And then, but the thing is that regardless, I mean, I'm always injuring myself. So like I said, regardless of whatever style I bring to the fight, you know, for example, the John Molina fight, I honestly would have knocked him out either a second, third round. You know, as a boxer, you can feel it right away. And I felt like I could have finished him because I'm sure I heard him every round because I could hear him either gasping for air or I could see his eyes just weren't all there. And I know I was catching him easy, but it was just a matter of like me not putting anything behind the punches because my hand was just really hurting.
No, I understand that. And of course, this fight here will mean that you've boxed twice in a space of 5 months. I mean, you haven't been that active for 5 years. You touched on before in previous interviews with myself that you've had some troubles outside of the ring, health stuff like that. Are you feeling good right now, Omar? Are you a happy fighter with this level of activity?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I've always wanted to stay this active, you know, but when I won the world title, that's when I broke both of my hands. So I was out for, 7-8 months, even out of the gym. I couldn't even hold a fist. My hand was hurting so much. And so once I got back into the gym in 2014, that's actually when I fought Jerry Belmontes, and that's, I had a tough time because I didn't get to train. My hands were still bothering me. The fight on the Canelo undercard fell through earlier that year because of the same thing. I was still having issues with the hand and the hands. And so, there comes a point in time where I'm like, what? Fuck this. Like, I just got to fight. And I have to rush the recovery. I have to just forego doctor's orders and, I got to fight. I get paid to fight. I have bills to pay. I have kids. I have things I want to do and things I want to accomplish. So, but honestly, right now, I feel great. I'm in a great place mentally, physically. Staying in the gym and staying active like this is, I feel, the best way to go because you don't give your body time to get used to anything else. I feel like this is the way it's meant to be. If I can fight 3 times a year from now on, then I want it to stay that way. I don't know how much longer I have in the sport. I don't know how much longer my body's gonna back me up, but I'm just gonna give it all I have for as long as I have.
And that's great to hear because you are a guy that I feel it's kind of tricky to know, have you reached your prime yet? Have you passed that phase yet? Has the inactivity kind of made the phase even shorter than it would be for other fighters? It's hard to say. So to have you back active is obviously what we all want, Omar. The main event of your fight card next weekend, Pacquiao versus Thurman. I want to get your take on that. Who do you believe wins that one, Omar?
I mean, that's a tough one because I know Thurman, even though he has he throws wild punches sometimes. He's a really calculated and smart fighter, and so I feel like he probably will give Pacquiao problems. But at the same time, depending on the Pacquiao that shows up, if Pacquiao's healthy and he still has that pep in his step, then I honestly feel like he's going to catch Thurman with one of his little short lefts or short right hooks and knock Thurman out. But like I said, it just really depends on who shows up for each guy.
Absolutely. And your brother is now the interim WBA Super-Bantamweight World Champion. Of course, he boxes next month in Texas. How's he getting on, Omar?
He's good. I mean, he stays in the gym. He has his group of friends that always follow him around and they push him to stay in the gym and whatnot. The only thing that I tell him is that he's got to get better sparring. I tell him to go, like, he doesn't have to go with Joel, obviously, but for him to go elsewhere and get better sparring or talk to, his team and ask him to get him better sparring because, I mean, I'm not saying the guys that he's sparring down here, they suck or anything, but they're just not at the level that I would like for him to be sparring. Like that's one of the things that I felt like elevated me to the next level when I got to California and I was sparring all these contenders, all these, former champions, all these either heavier, older, more experienced boxers, and that you can't get any better than that.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic comment, actually, Omar. That really is where you learn everything, obviously, in the gym. And Brandon has got just sky-high potential. I really believe in him. Andy Ruiz Jr. was able to stop Anthony Joshua since we last spoke, Omar. Surely you watched that fight. Were you shocked with the result?
I was at dinner. I was watching one of my friends perform. She's a singer, so she had a little gig at this restaurant, and I took my cousin. We were hanging out and enjoying a little bit of dinner and watching my friend perform. And then my cousin was like, "Oh man, like I can't believe we're missing the fight." And me being the person that I am, I was like, "What fight?" He's like, "Anthony Joshua's fighting tonight, he's fighting Andy Ruiz." I was like, "Oh, for real?" He's like, "Yeah, it's on the Zone." And I just happened to have the Zone because I don't know what fight, my family came over and they wanted to watch. I think it was a Canelo fight a while back. So I was like, I guess I'll get the Zone, whatever. I don't watch boxing, right? So to me, it was like, I don't care for the Zone. But so I happened to have the Zone. I was like, fuck it. So I put the fight on, and we actually watched the fight there at the restaurant. And we actually started screaming when Andy Ruiz knocked him down the first time. I was like, oh shit. And everybody was looking at us thinking we were crazy, but we were watching the fight. And I mean, it was actually, I enjoyed that fight. I mean, David against Goliath, you can't get better than that.
No, it was just shocking. It was shocking to see. Obviously, the rematch. Hopefully, it does happen. We think it will sometime later this year. A lot of people that I speak to believe that Ruiz will probably win that rematch, and probably more convincingly. Actually, even people that I'm speaking to over here. Omar, just before I let you go, have you got any closing words for our listeners? Just finally, before we let you go.
I mean, aside from the cliche, just thank you for everyone that has supported me and still supports me regardless of my inactivity. I swear I'm trying my best to stay mentally and physically, in shape and healthy. And hopefully next week, next Saturday we'll come out with a victory. Hopefully, I get the knockout or stoppage. And, I just hope it's a good night of fights and that the fans enjoy it.
And like I say, if you do get that knockout, you will become the first man to stop Ugas. That certainly would send out a statement. Listen, Omar, it is always a pleasure catching up with you, my friend. Best of luck for next weekend, and we'll speak sometime after.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part is usually the news part of the show, but Ayaz doesn't have anything for us so far this week. Perhaps by the end of the show, some more big news will develop as things go on, and we'll talk about it at the very end. But let's start straight away here with the preview part. It's actually happening later on this evening in Italy, Thursday, the 11th of July. We have over here at the Stadio Nicola Pietrangeli in Roma, Lazio. Firstly, topping the bill, Emanuele Blandamora, 29-3. I actually remember him fighting Billy Joe Saunders, and Billy Joe Saunders, if I'm not mistaken, knocked him out brutally. It was probably one of, if not the most brutal knockout of Billy Joe Saunders' career. I'm sure that's the same guy. 29-3, it's for the vacant WBC International Silver Middleweight title against Manchester's Marcus Morrison, a guy that, he was undefeated, wasn't he, under Joe Gallagher, and then he lost a couple of fights to Journeyman and stuff like that, so he's probably in there as a massive underdog, but it is a big opportunity for him, so I don't feel like he's got loads and loads of options on the table, so fair play to him. Hopefully he gets the win. Obviously we want the Brit to win here. Moving out to Japan at the Edion Arena in Osaka. This one's going to be on ESPN+. We have over here the defending WBA World Middleweight Champion Rob Brandt. He puts the belt on the line, like I say, against Ryoto Murata, Olympic gold medalist. He turned pro and all that, and then he had that fight against Hassan N'Dam, which perhaps he probably should have won, but he lost it, and then Hassan N'Dam become champion, and then they had the rematch, and then he took on Rob Brandt, and I think it's now this is going to be the final fight of 2 back-to-back rematch situations. He had the 2 fights against Hassan and Dam, and this is his second fight against Rob Brandt. Rob Brandt won pretty soundly in the first fight, so I'm expecting him to probably do something of the same. I can't quite remember if the first fight was in America or in Japan, but this could be interesting because, like I say, Rob Brandt has got to travel. If he did that the first time, I can't remember. I think he probably did, actually. Anyway, we'll have to keep an eye on that one. Murata 14-2 hasn't really cracked it as a pro, despite winning a world title pretty quickly. He just hasn't been as impressive as I think a lot of people thought he would be. And moving out now, Ayaz, to the King Abdullah Sports City in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Let's start with the undercard. It's a real strange undercard. I've said it before. There's going to be a quiz question somewhere in the next so many years, and they're going to say, what is the craziest fight that's ever happened in a place against two really strange fighters? And it has to be Hughie Fury 22-2 on the road against the Nigerian nightmare, former WBC or WPC, I think he said it was at the time, former WBC heavyweight world champion Samuel Peter, 38-7. I think he's got to be deep into his 40s now, Sam Peter. Way past his best. That's a 10-rounder there. Do not expect that one to go long. Also on the bill, we have Prince Patel, 19-0. He's been racking up those wins in Hungary. I think it is where he boxes. He has one draw as well, I should mention, a controversial one at that. This one's for the vacant IBO World Bantamweight title. He can actually call himself a world champion should he win against Michel Banquez, who is 18-1. I actually want to have a little look here at this guy, Ayaz, because he's got a tasty looking record, 18-1, and it could be a real challenge for Prince Patel. I'm just going to have a little look here. 13 knockouts, by the way, from those 18 wins. His last fight, he fought a guy. He did stop him in the first round, but the guy was 0-2. He took on Miguel Gonzalez in his only loss, and he lost unanimously over 11 rounds. That's a weird one, but yeah, he didn't get stopped by Gonzalez, but then again, not a real big puncher, but that's a good fight there. I mean, Gonzalez has only lost to good fighters. I think Paul Butler was one of them that beat him at the time. So, I'm looking at this guy's wins, I've got to be honest. They're awful. His wins are awful. His one big fight was against Miguel Gonzalez, and like I say, he lost, but he didn't get stopped or anything. His best win was against a guy who was 9-0 called William Riera, and he is no great shake. So this is almost like two mirror images of each other here. It's like the Venezuelan Prince Patel, because he's had all these fights against, I don't want to be disrespectful, but not real challenging opponents, and he's racked up a nice looking record, and they put it on the line here really, and it's a pretty big fight for both men. All the very best there to Prince Patel. And topping the bill, Amir Khan, Ayaz, 33-5. He takes on former featherweight world champion Billy Dibb. We had him on last week's show. How do you see this one unfolding, Ayaz? I believe it's for the vacant WBC International welterweight title, but I've heard about the WBC Pearl. It's all a bit confusing. Forget it though, the belts don't really matter here. Amir Khan, Billy Dibb, Ayaz, talk to me.
What can I say? It's a featherweight fighting a welterweight. To be fair, it's a mismatch. It's not going to be that interesting. I think Amir Khan's going to win, and I think he's going to win by a stoppage. To be fair, it's just a huge payday for Amir Khan, but fair place. It's in Jeddah this Friday as well, so I think Amir Khan's going to get a good win.
Yeah, we can't overlook the size factor. It really does stack in Amir's favour hugely, which is something of a new thing, really, because he's been the guy giving away size many times. It's not really the fight that we wanted to see. We do want to, if Amir Khan's going to actually take boxing serious, we do want to see that Kell Brook fight that seems like it will never happen. Billy Dibb does certainly have a puncher's chance. He can bang. I don't feel like you need to be a massive banger to hurt Khan. If he does hurt Khan, Khan's got so much to lose here. Billy Dibb hasn't got anything to lose, and that's what really can make a dangerous fighter a dangerous fighter. So it could be interesting, but like I say, if he catches Amir Khan and did anything to screw up the script and tear it up and knocked out Amir Khan, that is the end of Amir Khan. So there's a hell of a lot on the line for Amir. But yeah, credit, like I say, to Billy Dibb as well. He gets a big payday. He steps in. He pretty much saved the show because Amir Khan's opponent obviously had to pull out due to that car crash. It has all been a little bit car crash TV, but they're finally getting it on. And all the best to Billy Dibb, friend of the show. So I'd like to see him do well. I hope he doesn't get knocked out or anything like that, but it should be interesting. We do have to go to the predictions. As you believe a Khan knockout, it's the easy option to go with, isn't it? I think I'm probably going to have to join you there, even though I hope we're wrong. And the listeners also agree. 67% of the listeners going with that, so we all agree there. Khan by knockout. Hopefully it's not a bad one. Moving out now to the Olympia in Liverpool, Merseyside, United Kingdom. This one's going to be on ESPN Plus and probably IFL TV, I believe. It's a MTK Global show promoted by Lee Eaton. It's actually a brilliant card in terms of names. We've got Jazza Dickens, 26-3, fighting for the vacant IBF European featherweight title against Nathaniel May, 21-1. That's a 10-rounder there. The return of Martin Murray, 37-5 with one draw. That's a 10-rounder. I don't think there's an opponent lined up for that just yet. Former world champion Terry Flanagan returns to action. A huge drop down in level. I think his last fight was against Prograis, was it? Or has he had one other fight on an MTK show? Probably he did. Flanagan 33-2. That's an 8-rounder against Jonas Segu, who's 19-8 with 2 draws. Natasha Jonas 7-1. She takes on Beck Connolly, who's 2-5. That's 6 2-minute rounds there. Should be decent. Like I say, a few names on that bill there in Liverpool. Moving out now to the Emerald Queen Casino in Tacoma, Washington, USA. I don't believe I've actually mentioned this venue ever before. I like the sound of that, the Emerald Queen Casino there in Washington. It's on Showtime, this one, actually. And there's really one fight to mention of note. Just keep an eye on this. This is my kind of weird, strange, interesting, attractive fight. Otto Wallin, the Swedish heavyweight, 20-0. He's in a 10-rounder against BJ Flores, 34-4 with one draw. That is up at heavyweight, so Flores probably giving away some size there once again. That is a strange one. I like those strange fights there. Talking of an even stranger fight, but one that I'm not a fan of, Ayaz, at the Azur Arena in Alpes Maritimes in France here. Olympic gold medalist 2016, Tony Yoka. 5-0. He's in a 10-rounder against Alexander Dimitrenko, 41-5. Not the kind of opponent that we want to see against Tony Yoka. And obviously, Tony Yoka has built up a little bit of suspicion in everybody's minds now about the intake he's been having and putting into his body and stuff like that. Very, very unclear. We're not liking that. We're not real big fans of Yoka. He robbed our big Joe Joyce in that final there. Or I should say the officials, not personally him, but yeah. A terrible fight against Dimitrenko there. But again, you have to kind of respect it. It's only his 6th pro fight. Moving out now to the O2 Arena in Greenwich, London, United Kingdom. Let's start here with the undercard. Friend of the show, Willie Hutchinson, 8-0. He's in a 6-rounder against Josip Perkovic, 5-9 with one draw. Sonny Edwards, 11-0. He fights for the vacant IBF International Super Flyweight title against Hiram Gallardo, 12-2 with 2 draws. That's a 10-rounder there. Friend of the show, Archie Sharp, 15-0. He defends his WBO European Super Featherweight title against Jordan McCory, 18-5 with one draw. Obviously, McCory, I think it was his last fight, took on Sam Bowen for the British title, so it's a bit of a measuring stick kind of fight. I know that he put up a real good effort actually against Bowen. I think Archie Sharp wants to make a statement here, so all the very best to him. Also on the bill, Liam Williams, 20-2 with one draw. He didn't end up fighting Alontis Fox, the giant, the man that is a big friend of the podcast. He ended up taking on the Frenchman Karim Achour, 27-5 with 3 draws. That one is for the vacant WBC silver middleweight title. Also on the card, we're going to talk about these two on the predictions, Ayaz. Daniel Dubois, 11-0. It's for the vacant British heavyweight title against Nathan Gorman, 16-0. 12 rounds, Ayaz. Could be very interesting. Take it away.
I think this is going to be a very good fight, obviously. Nathan Gorman, Daniel Dubois, both prospects. It's going to be a very difficult fight. Obviously, they're both rising stars. But if I'm going to go with a win, I'm going to go in Daniel Dubois to win on points.
Daniel Dubois on points. Okay, interesting. The listeners, by the way, have gone with Gorman on points. That's what they've gone with. So that is very interesting, actually. It's a tough one. A lot of people are saying that it's either going to be Gorman points or it's going to be Dubois by knockout. So you've gone against the grain straight away there, Ayaz. Both men can bang. I want to make that clear. It really could end early. It really could end before the final bell. Daniel Dubois, has got those 10 knockouts. The one time he went the distance was against Kevin Kingpin Johnson, a guy that really can survive, a guy that's very, very smart in the ring. I don't think Dubois can win on points. I just don't think... I mean, he beat that guy, but obviously that guy doesn't really have much punch output. I think Nathan Gorman's not going to be negative. He's going to be trying to come forward, but you have to say the power surely has to lie with Dubois. The strength surely has to lie with Dubois, and the size itself has to lie with Dubois. And Dubois' got a fantastic jab, so I think that's going to be a real problem. I'm intrigued to see how Nathan Gorman's going to deal with that, because he has to kind of get on the inside. You'd have to think, and even when he does, he's got to be smart. He needs to get in and out, because you wouldn't want to trade with Dubois. But saying that, like I say, Gorman can punch himself. He's got 11 knockouts. He's got as many knockouts as Dubois has had fights. He's had just a couple more fights, hasn't he? So he's managed to get 11 knockouts. And yeah, I don't see it going the distance, but I think Dubois probably gets him at some point during the mid-round. So I'm going to go with a Dubois knockout. So it's interesting that we're all going with different methods here. It makes it real interesting on the Prediction League. But I just want to say a real special kind of mention to Frank Warren for putting these two guys in together, because he does it a lot, you know. And, you know, people like to kind of get at Eddie Hearn and they say, hey, you don't like to match your fighters together. And when he did, the one that kind of jumps out at me is Fowler and Fitzgerald. But even though those guys were undefeated, they didn't really have that future like heavyweights kind of can provide, you know. Like when you're in the heavyweight division, you're a big tall guy, you're knocking people out, you can earn tons and tons of money, not the kind of money that light middleweights or middleweights can earn, you know. So credit to Eddie Hearn for making that fight, of course. And I mean, it's really messed up Anthony Fowler's career for the minute. I mean, you know, he's really come off bad from that, and Fitzgerald doesn't really have a massive following or a massive profile just yet, but to get these two giants in together and putting it all on the line, really, the loser is in a real bad spot. So it's too early on. If we're being clever, it is too early for this fight to happen. I don't think Frank Warren was too pleased about making it, but neither guy wanted to back down. So pride is on the line here, if anything, and the British title, like I say. And moving up to the main event, Joe Joyce. I think this is the main event anyway. It's a great card here. It's fantastic. It's not on pay-per-view or anything. Not that it's pay-per-view worthy, but it's a good night here of free-to-air TV, should you be a BT Sport subscriber anyway. Joe Joyce 9-0 in a 12-rounder against the American threat. I think he calls himself the UK killer at the minute. Bryant Jennings 24-3. Ayaz, how do you see that one going down?
Brian, I think it's another huge step up for Joe Joyce. Obviously, Joe Joyce is rising through the ranks very, very quickly. He's a prospect as well. Obviously, we've seen Brian Jennings fought previously as well. And if I'm going to go win, I'm going to go with Joe Joyce to stop Brian Jennings.
Joe Joyce to stop Jennings. The listeners agree, and I think I do too. Bryant Jennings is just a bit too small, I think, for Joe Joyce. He's only 6'3", Jennings. He's not a massive puncher. He's coming off that knockout loss to Oscar Rivas. He's a tough guy. I mean, that's the thing. Joe Joyce kind of... I think he can bang, but he rarely kind of sits on his shots. I think he likes to get on his toes and move a bit. He's a bit of a mover, Joyce. He's not fantastic on his feet, but he likes to kind of create angles and throw attacks from here, there, and everywhere. So he's not the kind of guy that just stands and trades, really. You know, we've seen him do it a couple of times, but that's not really his game. He likes to kind of, you know, be on the front foot, be putting pressure on, but not readable pressure. He likes to kind of switch it up, and I do like that about him. He definitely brings something to the heavyweight division that not a lot of fighters have got. But I just think Jennings will take quite a good beating. I don't think he's got the power to really hurt Joyce, so I think it's going to be a pretty one-sided fight, really. I think Joyce, like I say, will get to him and will stop him. It will probably be the referee jumping in. I don't think he gets dropped and knocked out because, like I say, he is a tough guy. But, you know, people talk about his gym wars with Chisora, with big headgear, big gloves. You know, this isn't that. Chisora's a big guy, but he's not a tall guy. He's not got such a huge reach advantage and stuff like that. Joe Joyce is going to fight smart here, I believe, and I think he will show, you know, a lot of doubters that he is head and shoulders above Jennings, quite literally as well, almost. So, yeah, good fight, good step up, no problem with it, but I think Joe Joyce wins with relative ease, to be honest with you, and hopefully it's in a lot of people's minds a statement when he wins, which I believe he will. Friend of the show, both guys actually, so may the best man win truly. Moving out now stateside to the Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California, USA. Let's start here with the undercard. Cousin of Oscar De La Hoya, Diego De La Hoya, 21-0. It's for the interim WBA World Featherweight title. He takes on Ronnie Rios, who's 30-3. That should be decent there over 12 rounds. Topping the bill, though, the WBC Super-Bantamweight World Champion Ray Vargas, now 33-0. He takes on Tomoki Kameda, the guy with a record of 36-2. Kameda, again, we saw him in there with Jamie McDonnell twice. In both fights back-to-back, so that is the only man to have beaten Kameda, so that could be quite interesting there. But Ray Vargas, in my opinion, is a very, very good fighter. Moving out now to the Armory in Minneapolis, Minnesota, USA. This one is going to be on Fox Sports 1. There's a lot of action in America this weekend. We've got over here Jamal James, 25-1. He takes on Antonio DeMarco, 33-7 with one draw. Boy, oh boy. Charles Martin, 26-2 with one draw. Former IBF Heavyweight World Champion. He's in a 10-rounder against Daniel Martz, 18-6 with one draw. That's a real step down there. I'm expecting Martin to probably stop him within 2 rounds or something, actually. Gary Antonio Russell, 14-0. He's in a 10-rounder against Francisco Pedroza, 13-8 with 2 draws. Gary Antoine Russell, because they're never alone, the Russell brothers. There's always 1 or 2, well, there's always 2 or 3, or even I think there could be even 4 of them. Gary Antoine Russell, 9-0. He's in an 8-rounder against Larry Ventus, who's 9-13 with one draw. I'd like to see some step-ups, really, between those siblings there, including the oldest brother, Gary Russell Jr. It gets very confusing. But anyway, the heavyweight attraction on this bill, Robert Helenius, 28-2. He takes on Gerald Washington, 19-3 with one draw. Again, that's my kind of fight. I really like that one. The loser probably has to think about hanging him up. Gerald Washington, a man with a lot of promise at one stage, and it seems like it's just gone horribly wrong. He seems like he just can't keep it together really when it comes to the big time level of the sport. I will never say I can't really not mention he was beating Wilder every single round until he got stopped there, I think in round 5 or round 4, whenever it was. And like I say, against Big Baby Miller, he was terrible actually. But he's a friend of the show, so we wish him all the best here against Helenius. And coming down to the last couple of bills, I must mention this crazy one in the Auditorio Ernesto Rufo in Baja California, Mexico. We have over here Luis Ramon Campas, a guy that I think he was a IBF world champion in like 1997, something like that. I think he had a few defenses. He's fought some guys, including Oscar De La Hoya. I remember him getting stopped by De La Hoya back in 2003 or 2004. Anyways, he's still going. This is going to be his 128th fight. He has a record of 107 wins, 17 losses and 3 draws. He takes on Alexis Canet, who's 12-2 with 2 draws. Campas, by the way, has been a pro. He's been a pro for 32 years. That is incredible. I mean, let's just give him a round of applause because that is incredible there, Luis Campas. And the final bill to mention, this one happens at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, USA. This one, again, going to be shown on ESPN. Joshua Greer Jr., friend of the show. He is the guy that likes to bring a pillow to the weigh-in to let his opponent know that they're going to sleep, and he's usually right, actually. Joshua Greer Jr., 20-1 with one draw. That's a 12-rounder there against Nikolai Potapov, who's 20-1 with one draw. Potapov, a decent fighter. It's a step up, really, in my opinion, for Joshua Greer Jr. because again, he's a guy that really has his eyes on becoming a world champion in the not too distant future. So he does need to step it up. His last few fights have been against guys that have been decent but haven't really, kind of catapulted him onto that big scene. That's why the gimmick of the pillow, I feel, does him huge favours, really. But yeah, he takes on here Potapov, obviously, with a one loss. It came to Omar Narvaez, who was a good fighter in his day. but he actually lost to him in 2017. So that doesn't look fantastic. But again, I'm all for this one. It's another step up there. And also on the card, friend of the show, he was on last week, Shakur Stevenson, 11-0. He had an opponent change, unfortunately. He now takes on Alberto Guevara, who's 27-4. Guevara, obviously a Mexican fighter. He was in there in his last fight against Hugo Ruiz. He lost 10 rounds unanimously. That was back in January. He also fought Emmanuel Rodriguez back in 2016 and lost to him. He fought for the WBC World title against Yamanaka back in 2013 and lost that one by knockout. Obviously beat Jonathan Vidal. That was back in 2013. But again, I feel like the record's a little bit padded, to be honest. But again, he also lost in 2012. He lost his in an IBF World title fight against Leo Santa Cruz. It was unanimously. He didn't get stopped by Santa Cruz. So he's a tough guy. And like I say, if Shakur Stevenson can get him out of there, especially within 9 rounds, then he betters Yamanaka's win. He betters Leo Santa Cruz's win. It's kind of a measuring stick fight. Again, it's another kind of sidestep. I preferred the original opponent, to be honest. Yeah, so it is what it is. It's not really Shakur's fault. We do want to see him stepped up, though. He made that clear on last week's show. He said Josh Warrington is the route I want to go down to become a world champion. So there is big fights for him, but I guess we'll just have to wait for the time being. But that is really about everything there for the preview part of the show. Just before we wrap up part 2 and finally end the show, the last thing to do is to welcome guest number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated Super-Bantamweight prospect. He is, of course, Mr. Tramaine Williams. Tramaine, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me. How you doing?
It's my pleasure, my friend. I'm doing very well. So, Tramaine, obviously, you're now 18-0 as a professional, 6 knockouts, fighting out of Connecticut. Tell us about yourself, though, Tramaine. How did you get into boxing in the very beginning?
I started when I was 9. My cousin brought me to the gym after begging me for about 2 weeks, and I finally said, yes, I'll go. The first day I went, my coach says, I can be good, and I actually proved him to be right.
Yeah, for sure. And, promotionally, you're still with Rock Nation?
Yes.
Are you one of the few fighters that's actually managed to meet the man himself, Jay-Z, or not?
Yeah.
Oh, you've managed to meet him?
Yeah.
What was it like?
It was cool, but he was Russian. He was in a meeting, so I didn't really get to pick his brain or talk to him.
Oh, you're lucky,
so
man.
I just said hi, bye. I kind of paid. I peeped that he wasn't really in a kind of a mood to talk. I think he was in a meeting or something. He was Russian.
Oh, man, it's cool to actually get a glimpse of the guy, though, because I've spoke to a few Rock Nation fighters, and a lot of them say, yeah, we're supposed to do a meeting at some point, but I haven't done it yet, and you've actually seen him, so credit to you, my friend. Tramaine, who trains you? Which gym do you train out of?
I train with a guy named Mike Conroy. The name of the gym is American Martial Arts. There's actually a martial arts studio downstairs, and it's a boxing gym upstairs.
Okay, sounds cool. And what other boxers are boxing in the same gym as you? Any other names that we may know?
A guy named Josh Crespo. He's actually a featherweight as well. A guy named Jimmy Williams. He's actually a 154 pounder. He's 17-2. So I've trained with a few other professional athletes, boxers per se.
And boxing nicknames is probably one of the very best things about boxing. There are some really, really good nicknames out there. And of course, your nickname is in relation to your height. You're 5'4", and you're nicknamed the Mighty Midget. How did that come about?
My name always was the Midget because when my first boxing match, I was 53 pounds, soaking wet. But my coach used to call me Midget. And then one time I was fighting in my hometown, and this guy named John Stehart, he said, fighting out of the blue corner, the Mighty Midget, Tramaine. But it's kind of weird. It's kind of an oxymoron, Mighty, the Midget. So it's kind of like fierce, like almost like the Mighty Mouse. Like he's big at heart, but small in stature, I guess.
No, it's cool to hear a backstory to some of these nicknames. Obviously,
and it's unique.
Exactly. That's what I mean. I was thinking, hey, I don't even want to call you it because you might not like it. it's that unique.
No, I embrace it.
You embrace it. That's the right thing to do, my friend. Obviously, your next fight is on the undercard of Hooker Ramirez on July 27th in Texas. You're taking on Yenifel Vicente. What do you know about this guy?
He's coming to fight. He's strong. He's been there with a lot of the top guys. And he's durable. I think he's tailor-made for me, though. I think I'm going to go in there and give him a nice, I say, a lesson, per se.
Yeah, because obviously he's been around the block. He's beaten some decent fighters. He's got more knockouts than you've had fights. But you know, he has been beaten by guys like Eric Hunter, a good fighter, and the likes, of course, of Chris Avalos. So a win here would be a statement, obviously. Do you see this as your toughest test so far in a pro ring?
I'm not sure yet because I haven't been in a ring with him yet. So I believe when I get in a ring with him, I probably would know.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. Interesting answer. And Tramaine, who have you managed to spar over the years? I'm guessing that you've been able to mix it with some good fighters in the gym.
Yeah, Lomachenko, Javier Fortuna, the likes of, what's his name? Oh, man. Miguel Flores. A lot of guys you put me on the spot, so once you put someone on the spot, I can't think of any names. But I've been here with a lot of world champions, and actually, I kind of understand that I need to become world champion. And if I don't, becoming a world champion is an understatement to me at this moment. I've been in the ring with tons of world champions, and I've showed my wherewithal.
You mentioned there doing rounds with Lomachenko. I mean, what was that like? People obviously have got him at the very top of their pound-for-pound list. Is he the best fighter that you've ever sparred with?
Mentally, yes.
Okay. I want to get your take on the main event. You're fighting on the undercard, but the main event, Hooker versus Ramirez. It's a fantastic fight, by the way, in the 140 division. Obviously, you've got Regis Prograis and Josh Taylor doing their thing in the World Boxing Super Series. This is, the fight of the other two. So it's great to see this kind of unification. Who do you believe wins it? How do you see that fight playing out?
I actually grew up with Ramirez. He's going to give you a tough fight. He's going to come for all 12 rounds. He's going to go to the body. And Hooker, you're going to get an in-shape fighter, strong, coming to fight. So I believe that this is a 50-50 fight. This could go either way.
Yeah, no, definitely a 50-50, yeah. I want to ask you, Tramaine, who do you like watching? Like, do you kind of watch it as a fan, the sport? Do you sit back? Who do you like to watch?
George Benton, Pernell Whitaker, and that's about it. I don't really watch too many other fighters.
No, that's good company there to watch those lot. And obviously right now there are 3 different full champions at Super Bantamweight at your weight class. Who would you say is the best fighter at Super Bantam? Is it even one of the champions? You tell me.
I think it's myself.
It's yourself already?
Yeah, I believe so.
You just got to prove this.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got to do. And I won't even get mad if somebody say, "Nah, you didn't do anything yet." Not yet. But you could hold me to what I just said. About a year from now, you're like, he did say he was the best in that weight class. You just didn't get a shot. And then I also had a couple bumps in a row. So I say me until someone puts me on.
Who's second to you then? I'll ask you that.
I don't know. Maybe the guy who beats me. Maybe me. Because I think I'm the only person that can beat me. So maybe the person that beats me is me. I don't know.
No, it's an interesting...
No, I'm playing. I would say maybe Daniel Roman, maybe.
Daniel Roman, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
It's weird because, like I say, there's Rigondeaux back now at Super Bantamweight. I mean...
Yeah, but I seen his last fight. I think it's I don't know. I don't think those tires
got a lot of
having traction anymore.
Yeah,
they have traction, but it happens at time. It's called Father Time, and then you have 500 amateur fights. Not to say the sponsorship that we don't know about, not to say the fights that we don't know about, or the countless fights that you had as a professional. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Catches up with you. Yeah.
Yes, and I think it's starting to catch up to him now.
Yeah, perhaps. Coming down to the last couple questions I've really got for you now, Tramaine. I put you on the spot when I asked you who you sparred. I hate to do this, but I'm going to really put you on the spot now. I like to ask this question to everybody that we speak to from overseas. I like to ask, who is your favourite UK fighter. And it can be from any era. It can be guys that are still boxing now. It can be guys that have retired years and years ago. Who comes to mind when I ask you that question?
Billy Joe Sanders, because I watched Billy Joe as an Olympian, and I always thought he could fight. That's my favorite.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, we'll accept that answer. That's probably a first, I think. But no, you can't be faulted for that answer. He's obviously, a very good fighter, a really tricky guy. And we want to see those big fights made for him at middleweight or super middle, because he's now a reigning champion up there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just seen it. I seen him in the amateurs and the Olympics, and it's crazy because I didn't know nothing of him. I'm like, this guy moves good. I like him.
Funny how things turn out, man. This is why boxing is the best sport in the world. And just finally, Tramaine, just before I let you go, I want to give you an opportunity just to send a final message to our listeners. If there's perhaps something I haven't asked you, something that you want to get across, you can say anything you like at all.
Well, stay along for the ride. The name is the Mighty Midget Tramaine Williams. I would love to go fight in the UK. I would love to even go to vacation in the UK. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate all your time because, time is the most precious thing in the world. So I appreciate that dearly.
My pleasure, my friend. It really has been my pleasure. And finally, Tramaine, I do just have to say, give us your Twitter handles, your Instagram handles. Where can people follow you if they want to get on board with the journey?
The Instagram is Tramaine_Williams. The Twitter is Tramaine_Will. Snapchat is Tramaine_Midget. You can find me on all three of them. And then Facebook is Tramaine Williams. Or fan page, The Mighty Midget, Tramaine Williams. But just reach out, send me a shout out, or even a message, and I'll return the love. Thank you.
Excellent, my friend. So that is, by the way, for anyone listening that wants to follow Tramaine here, that is TRAMAINE_Williams across the likes of Instagram and stuff like that. So get following there. But listen, Tramaine, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you, my friend. Thank you so much for your time, and best of luck for July 27th in Texas.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 195 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. A massive thank you to our two guests on this week's show, the undefeated former WBC Lightweight World Champion, Omar Figueroa, and of course the undefeated Super-Bantamweight prospect, Tramaine Williams. There has been one or two pieces of news break while we've been recording the show. Heavyweight Martin Bakole has signed a promotional contract with Matchroom Sports. He'll be fighting on August 2nd in Liverpool, and that bill, by the way, will be topped by Anthony Fowler against Brian Rose. It's finally been rescheduled. Also to appear on that show, Lewis Ritson takes on Joe Hughes. That has the potential to be fight of the night there in Liverpool. And aside from that, it's also been made official for July 27th that Tevin Farmer will be defending his IBF world title against Guilherme Frenoy. That is the guy who drew with John O'Carroll, before Carroll took on Farmer himself. We kind of knew that fight was going to happen anyway when we had Tevin on the show a couple months back. So, that's about everything for the news. There are 3 points up for grabs in this week's Prediction League, so best of luck with that to everybody. Thank you all for listening to this week's podcast. Enjoy your weekends, people, and we shall see you all again next week.